On November 19th, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words: "To us, in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations." With the approval of this legislation, Public Law 380, on June 1st, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans. Later that year, President Eisenhower declared Veterans Day a national holiday and a day of recognition. It has been our tradition to celebrate this very special day here at Sparta High School. However, this year we had to change the celebration just a little bit. This has become an amazing project. We were able to create this memento in collaboration with the Sparta High School Student Council, Mrs. Lopez and the extremely talented choir students, and Ms. Paige Lucas. On this Veterans Day, let us remember the service of our veterans and let us renew our national promise to fulfill our sacred obligations to our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much so we can live free. Dan Lipinski. We would like to recognize the veterans on staff at Sparta High School for their contributions to their school, their community, and their country. Thank you for your service, Bill Brennan, Jerry Carter, Eric Hood, and Tony Lombardo. And thank you to our friends at the Sparta VFW, the Foy family, the Rogoff family, and Mr. DeLucia for sharing your stories. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
How you doing? Mr. Carter here. I've been at Sparta for about 23 years. When I was at high school, I decided to join the Army. So I signed up in the middle of my senior year. After I graduated, I went in. I went to boot camp right here in New Jersey at Fort Dix, which may not be in New Jersey because in August it snowed. And then I went to Fort Rucker, Alabama to learn to fix helicopters because I decided that was my calling. When I graduated that school, I was at the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell, Kentucky for a year and a half. Went over to Germany for a Reforger, a war exercise. When we came back from there shortly after, I was sent to my final location, which was in Hawaii. My military experience was a good experience, and one of the benefits I got from it was that through the GI Bill, it paid for me to go to college and earn my degree.
Happy Veterans Day to everyone out there. Some gave all gave some. We all made our contributions. We all did our bit. I would like to mention two things about the Marines, or actually about my life in general. Two factors that formed me. I would say my parents. I had great parents. The world would be a better place if everyone had parents, the ones that I had, like the ones I had. Of course, you can't pick your parents, but if you could, you'd have picked mine, Robert Hood and Ann Hood. They formed me to be, I would like to say, a decent person until I became 17 and I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Now, my dad was World War II, and he remembered the Pacific. He was in the Pacific. He didn't want me to go in. But in the end, he acquiesced, and he let me enlist in the Marine Corps. Let me talk a little about being in the Marines. I have to say this, it's not for everyone, all right? It can be really tough, particularly the job I did. I was an infantryman, which is now called a grunt. I think people misuse that term. What was the Marine Corps like? It was challenging. It was also very rewarding. And it was also, I was spoiled in the Marine Corps. I love saying this. People that were in the Army, I think, will get this as well, or the Navy, that in the Marine Corps, particularly in the infantry unit, we had leaders. So we really had inspiring figures. I remember one man who was my company commander on Okinawa. If that guy had said jump, we would have said how high and done it gladly, or taken the hill for him. So I need to say this also concerning the Marine Corps, is that I did go to a lot of places, all right? So in the United States, I trained in South Carolina, North Carolina. I was at Natick, where they made the new rations at that time. They're no longer new, the MREs. I was in California twice, 29 Palms, also San Diego, Camp Pendleton. And we did quite a bit of traveling overseas because my battalion on Okinawa, went to Korea, South Korea, not North Korea, Japan, Hong Kong. We were in the South China Sea looking for refugees who were fleeing the Vietnamese communists, and also the Philippine Islands. And when I returned to the United States, when I was in the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marine Regiment, our regiment had NATO responsibilities. So as far as travel was concerned, I went to Scotland, Norway, Denmark, Belgium, and France, the first time I'd gone to France. So I did get to do quite a bit of traveling, because in a grunt unit, in a grunt battalion, you don't spend a lot of time on the base. You're either, battalion was actually deployed. See, I was lucky, I have to say that. I was enduring a time of peace, but we were always deployed in potential hotspots around the world. Washington decides that, we don't get involved in. But anyway, the point of what I'm trying to say, I'm drawing this out too long. The Marine Corps gave me more than I gave to the Marine Corps, because I learned a lot of things. One of the things I learned was how to get along with other people from very diverse backgrounds from all around the country. Some people were very poor, some people were rich. People don't realize this, but you had supposedly, we had Hugh Hefner's son. He was in my battalion out in California, actually training battalion. I never met him, but we would hear about these people. And there were very rich people, there were very poor people, or there were people who couldn't speak English very well. So you had to come together and work with these guys, right? The other thing I learned was, for me personally, and for anyone who wants to go in the Marine Corps, because it is a challenge, is that you're capable of doing much more than you think you can do, physically and psychologically. So some of the physical stress I was put under, I fainted, but I had my buddies to help me. And that's another thing about the Marine Corps is, it's really, as Mr. Einstein calls it, a fraternity, and is a fraternity. Because I can give the banal example of being stopped by cops, and if they see the Marine Corps emblem, generally, not always, generally, they'll let me go, because I don't get smart with them, and they see the emblem, and a lot of times either they were cops or they were Marines, or their brothers were Marines, or something like that. So all in all, it was a great experience. I would recommend to a lot of people some sort of military experience, not necessarily the Marine Corps, because it's an attitude, it's a state of mind, and maybe it's a cult. It never really leaves you. You can see in the background there all the Marine Corps paraphernalia I've gotten over the years, and I put some of it up on the walls, and I have even more at home. So you can see it really is a cult, and most of us really, really believe in it, and we'll believe in it till our dying day. And it gave us the core values of honor, courage, and commitment. That's all I have to say. I've talked enough. I have two last things to say. Semper Fi, and God bless America.
Hello everyone, Tony Lombardo here. I'd like to wish my fellow veterans a happy Veterans Day. I work here at Sparta High School as a school counselor. When I graduated high school, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I served from 1983 until 1988. I earned the rank of corporal. While in the Marine Corps, I learned very valuable skills that are utilized today in my job as a school counselor. Most notable are my time management skills and my organizational skills. While in the Marine Corps, I had an opportunity to serve my country as an embassy guard in Accra, Ghana, West Africa, where we protected American personnel and property. Another unique opportunity that I had was serving with a multinational peacekeeping force off of Beirut, Lebanon. I was stationed on the USS Ponce. It was one of the highlights of my career in the Marine Corps. I'd like to again wish my fellow veterans a happy Veterans Day.
Hi there, fellow Spartans. My name's Susan Foy, and I'm an Air Force veteran. Thanks to Ms. DeLucia and the school for always hosting this Veterans Day program. I think it's really important, since we don't have a big military presence around the Sparta and Sussex County area, that you guys get to hear a little bit about our stories and what it's like to serve in the military. I grew up here in Sparta, graduated Sparta High School in 1987, and then I went to the Air Force Academy. After getting my Bachelor of Science degree there, I went on to pilot training in Texas. And being an Air Force pilot was a dream of mine for as long as I could remember. So I was just over the moon, excited to go do this. My first assignment after pilot training was the C-9 Nightingale in Germany. And this is a medevac platform. And we flew all over Europe and parts of the Middle East in that airplane. From there, I went to Washington State and flew the C-141B Starlifter. This is a strategic airlift airplane meaning that it hauls people and cargo all over the world. It can receive fuel from another aircraft in flight, where it flies up behind the tanker and the tanker connects a boom right here to offload fuel. We also did low-level missions where we would be 300 feet off the ground at 250 knots in formation with several other airplanes, just like this one, and then pop up to go over the drop zone at about 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet to then drop paratroopers either out the back doors here or the cargo out of the big doors in the back. Really fun, really rewarding mission. That assignment is where I met my husband, Scott. He's an intelligence officer, and he retired also after 24 years as a colonel. So we're both retired now. From there, we went to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, where I flew the C-21 Learjet. This one's used for VIP transport. So usually just flying generals or other high-ranking officers to Washington or other bases where they may have had meetings. And during this assignment was when Martina was born. From there, we went to the Pentagon for a few years. So I flew a desk, as they say. But it was very rewarding, and I learned so much during that assignment about how the military works and working with other services as well. And that's where our son, Aiden, was born. From there, I went to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland to fly the C-32, which is a modified 757. Now, these models are not all built to the same scale, so this airplane in reality is almost about as big as this one. But the mission on the C-32 is to be Air Force 2, which means flying the Vice President, as well as special airlift missions, flying the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the First Lady when she's traveling without the President, and other cabinet members, important government officials. But really the Vice President and the Secretary of State were our most prolific flyers. They were our busiest customers, so that's primarily who we flew. I retired in 2015 after that assignment at Andrews Air Force Base, did 24 years on active duty, retired as a lieutenant colonel, and now I fly for United Airlines. Some of my favorite memories were flying missions to Antarctica in the C-141. We resupplied the scientists down at McMurdo Station there, and that was just a really awesome mission. Also, post 9/11, flying missions in that same airplane in the weeks and months right after 9/11. We did some really important things, and that was just really, that was why I signed up. That was why I wanted to be in the military, to do something important for the country. And then flying the C-21 while I was pregnant with Martina. So she actually flew with me in this airplane for a few months before I had her. So that's kind of a little fun factoid there. And then honestly, flying our nation's leaders in the C-32 was just the pinnacle of my career. That was, if you're going to fly big airplanes in the Air Force, getting to fly our nation's leaders around is just amazing. We went all over the world, and it's a diplomatic mission. So, and that's why it says United States of America on the airplane, not United States Air Force. And one successful diplomatic mission can prevent hundreds of combat sorties later on. So, this was just the pinnacle of my career. So a few takeaways that I'd like you to kind of remember from my talk today is that you can have a successful career in the military and a family. It takes balance, it takes hard work, and a strong family and friend network, but it is possible and it's so rewarding. Secondly, when you see a veteran, thank them. Whether they served 2 years or 3 decades, they're one of the few that was willing to give their life for our nation and the freedom that it stands for. And finally, if you're considering joining the military, I thank you and I encourage you and I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Elio DeLucia. I was in the Air Force from 1966 to 1970. I was an NCO. I spent 2 years in New York, a year in Texas, a year in Vietnam, and 1 year in South Dakota. But let me give you a little bit of history, how I arrived at this point. I was born in Italy. I came in the United States in 1958. I was 12 years old. I attended John F. Kennedy High School. I graduated in 1966. I was ready to go to attend college, and I received a notice from the Army to report in July of 1966. So I went to the board to obtain a deferment, and I wasn't getting an answer, and the time was me to report to Newark for induction. So I decided, I talked it over with my father, I decided I wanted to be something, so I decided to go into the Air Force. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. So I took my test, I passed it with flying colors, and I reported to Newark. We flew to Texas. 2 days later, I got my deferment, which it was too late to do anything. So I made the best that I could in the military. The first 6 months was pretty much training. Then I got transferred to Suffolk County Air Force Base in Long Island, New York. I spent 2 years there. They were very nice, except in the wintertime. From there, I guess I outsmarted myself. I volunteered for Italy and Germany. A month later, I ended up in Saigon. So the duties were to protect the base. And we had a lot of situation, which will take too long to talk about it. Then I got promoted to NCO, non-commissioned officer, and they put me in charge of the Tonsonu Air Force, the base where civilian and military planes were landing and going to combat. From then, I volunteered to another place in Vietnam called Vang Tao. I spent a couple weeks there. We were going on duty, and our Jeep got hit. I was unconscious. I would wake up in Saigon, and the doctor transferred me to Japan. I spent several months to Japan, cured. I hurt my left shoulder. My tired left shoulder was almost gone, but the doctor did a great job. Once I was okay, they returned me back to Vietnam. Then I went on R&R, rest and recuperation. I went to Australia for 2 weeks. I enjoyed there, but unfortunately, I went there in July, and in Australia it's winter time, and I froze because I didn't bring any winter clothes. So anyhow, upon conclusion of Vietnam, I was on my third year. I volunteered for the East Coast and the West Coast, and I got South Dakota. They originally put me in B-52 bombers in charge, but since I had rank, they changed me in missiles. I was in charge of 10 ICBM sites. That's intercontinental ballistic missiles. They were pointed at Russia and China. So I was in charge at 22 years old. So from there, I decided to go to college. I enlisted at the South Dakota Engineering and Technology. I spent all the time there until I was discharged in 1970. From there, I went to college, Montclair State University, on a GI Bill. And that's pretty much the end of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Rogoff. I am a Navy veteran, and I am the father of Charlotte Rogoff. I was in the Navy for 23 years, so not only am I a veteran, but I'm also what they consider as retired Navy. I rose to the rank of E7, or Chief Petty Officer, after my 23 years. During my time in service, I mostly was in the medical department, but I also spent a lot of time in the field, sometimes with the Marines, and sometimes with the Maritime Civil Affairs and Security Training Command, which was a unit that spent time working for the State Department, traveling all over the world, teaching other military forces how to be the best military people they could be, and also providing humanitarian assistance to forces and to populations in other countries. My last assignment was in southern coastal Kenya. I lived there for about a year, taking care of the people that lived there and worked there.